Hey everyone! So this week we are celebrating our first anniversary of DisneylandForever.com, something I am really excited about. Obviously this YouTube channel is even an offshoot from that website. So to celebrate, I wanted to go over our most popular article from DisneylandForever.com, which is on the best times to visit Disneyland. Now when people find out that I'm really big into Disneyland, they always ask me, when do you think is the best time to go to Disneyland? And I always get different responses from people because of course they tell me when their favorite time is. What it really comes down to, in my opinion, is that there's actually just a list of pros and cons to each time of year. That's what's going to determine what's best for you. If smaller crowds is the most important thing to you, then you're going to have to give up a lot of attractions being open. I'm going to go over just kind of the basics of what I mean so you can get an overview of how the year generally pans out at Disneyland, and you can find the link to the full article down in the description. Now the very first part of the year, between like January and March, this is their off season. During the off season, you're gonna see a lot fewer crowds throughout the parks. Usually the wait times are really short, but there's also going to be a lot of attractions closed for refurbishment. Sometimes in January and February, there'll be a list of like 10 attractions that are closed, and the parks are open sometimes as little as 10 hours. Between March and May, it's still the off season, but it's during spring break. And so there's going to be a little bit higher crowd levels, but there is also going to be more attractions open, and the parks are actually going to be open a lot longer, closer to like 14, 16 hours a day. When there's more crowds, it also means that like their parades and their fireworks shows and all the entertainment happen more frequently throughout the week rather than just on the weekends. Once you hit the end of May and all the way through till about mid-August, that is the summer season. So that is the time when there are hardly any attractions closed. Anything new that's going to be opening up has already opened by that point. Obviously, this means there's also going to be a lot more crowds. During this time, the lines tend to be closer to like 25 minutes, half an hour. August and September are interesting months because they use those times to prepare for the rest of the year. So there's a lot more attractions closed in August and September, but also, since it's right around the time that the school year is starting, there are fewer people in the parks. Once you hit the middle of September and you've hit Halloween season, there's going to be very few attractions closed for refurbishment, if any. During the week, you may see a few crowds, but generally speaking, they're not that bad, maybe about 20-minute wait times. But the weekends are suddenly going to get really crowded from all the locals. Obviously, with it being Halloween season, that's a big plus because you're going to get a lot more seasonal entertainment. But with that, if you do not have tickets for Mickey's Halloween party, then Disneyland is going to be closed for you much earlier in the day on select nights than they would be otherwise. Right out of October, you get into November and December, where they get into the holiday season. Early November and early December are really not very crowded, but right around Thanksgiving and especially around Christmas and New Year's, those are the busiest times of year by far for Disneyland. In fact, right around Christmas time is the only time of year where Disneyland has to consistently close their gates because they have reached maximum capacity. I've been there on those days. It is wall-to-wall people. Another plus, hardly anything is closed in November or December because they're expecting huge crowds. Now, anytime a holiday comes up, you can expect that crowds are probably going to get a little bit heavier. Now, Disneyland this year implemented a new tiered one-day pricing level geared to thin out crowds on these sorts of days, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't plan on holidays always being a lot better than they used to. Plan on them being a little bit heavier than what a normal day would have. Also, July 17th is always a really crowded day because that's Disneyland's birthday. So there are a few things to think about when you're next planning your visit to Disneyland. Go ahead and leave us a comment about when your favorite time to visit Disneyland is and why. Now, if any of you are actually going to be in Disneyland this next week, we're actually going to be there. So if you see me, go ahead and say hi, especially if you're going to be at Mickey's Halloween party on the 12th. It's going to be super fun. Go ahead and also leave us any comments or ideas or questions that you have that you'd like to see for future videos for us to make. And make sure to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe for more just like it. And in the meantime, we will see you all next week. All right, see you guys.